The evening started like any other Tuesday at Riverside Bistro. The sun was setting over downtown Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Inside the restaurant, the soft glow of chandeliers reflected off polished silverware and crisp white tablecloths. The dinner crowd was starting to roll in, and the air buzzed with quiet conversations and the clinking of wine glasses. Maya had just clocked in for her shift. She tied her black apron around her waist and checked her reflection in the small mirror by the server station. Her hair was pulled back neatly and her white shirt was pressed and spotless. This attention to detail wasn't just about following the dress code. Maya took pride in her work. She'd been at Riverside Bistro for 3 years now, and in that time she'd built a reputation as one of the best servers on staff. But tonight, work was about more than just pride. Maya had a tuition payment due next week. She was in her final year of nursing school, juggling classes during the day and serving tables at night. Every shift mattered. Every tip counted. She grabbed her notepad and pen, took a deep breath, and headed out to the dining room floor. The hostess, a young woman named Jessica, who'd become a good friend over the years, caught her eye and gave her a quick smile. "Got a 4 top for you in Section 3, she said. "Just sat them down." Maya nodded and made her way through the busy restaurant. Section 3 was near the windows, one of the best spots in the house. She could see the table from across the room. 2 couples, probably in their late 40s or early 50s. They were dressed expensively. The women wore designer dresses and heavy jewelry that caught the light. The men had on pressed dress shirts and sport coats. Out-of-towners, Maya guessed. They had that look about them, the way they were taking in the restaurant like they were sizing it up. She approached the table with her usual warm smile. "Good evening, folks. Welcome to Riverside Bistro. My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." The response wasn't what she expected. Instead of the typical friendly greeting she usually got, there was a pause. A long, uncomfortable pause. One of the men, a heavy-set guy with silver hair and a red face, looked her up and down. Then he glanced at his wife. A thin woman with short blonde hair and cold blue eyes. Something passed between them. Something Maya had seen before, though not often in this restaurant. The blonde woman's lips pressed into a thin line. She looked past Maya, scanning the dining room. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp. "Don't you have any other servers available?" The question hung in the air. Maya felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her smile in place. She'd dealt with difficult customers before. "It came with the job. I'd be happy to take care of you, ma'am. I've been here for 3 years, and I promise you'll have a wonderful dining experience." The woman didn't look convinced. The silver-haired man leaned back in his chair and sighed loudly. "Standards have really dropped everywhere these days," he said to no one in particular. But his voice was loud enough that Maya heard every word. Loud enough that the table next to them heard it too. Maya felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she forced herself to stay professional. "Can I start you folks off with some drinks? We have an excellent wine list, or if you prefer, I can tell you about our specialty cocktails." The other couple at the table seemed uncomfortable. The second man, younger with dark hair and glasses, shifted in his seat. His wife looked down at her menu, avoiding eye contact with everyone. But neither of them said anything. They didn't tell their friends to stop. They didn't ask them to be polite. They just sat there silent. "I'll have a scotch." "Neat," the silver-haired man said without looking at Maya. "And make sure it's the good stuff. I don't want some cheap pour." "Of course, sir. We carry several premium scotches. Do you have a preference?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Just bring something decent. If you know what that is." The blonde woman ordered a dirty martini with specific instructions about the vodka brand and the number of olives. The other couple ordered wine, speaking so quietly that Maya had to lean in to hear them. As she wrote down the orders, she could feel the silver-haired man's eyes on her. Not looking at her like a person, looking at her like she was something that didn't belong there. "I'll have these right out for you," Maya said, maintaining her professional tone. She turned to walk back to the bar, and that's when she heard it. Laughter. Not the warm kind that fills a restaurant when friends are having a good time. This was different. Mocking. Mean-spirited. "Affirmative action hire, I bet," the silver-haired man said, his voice carrying farther than he probably intended, or maybe exactly as far as he intended. "Probably can't even read the menu properly," the blonde woman added with a laugh. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she walked away. She could feel eyes on her from other tables now. People had heard. She knew they had heard. But she kept walking, head up, shoulders back. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her upset. At the bar, she placed the drink order with Tommy, the bartender who'd worked there longer than anyone. He took one look at her face and frowned. "You okay?" "Fine," Maya said, forcing a smile. Just a challenging table. Tommy had been in the service industry for 20 years. He'd seen it all. "Which table?" "Don't worry about it. I've got it handled." But as she waited for the drinks, she couldn't shake the feeling in her chest. That tight, heavy feeling that came with being judged for something you couldn't change, something you shouldn't have to change. She thought about her mom, who'd raised her alone and taught her to hold her head high no matter what. She thought about her classes at nursing school, where she was at the top of her program. She thought about all the patients she'd helped during her clinical rotations, people who'd thanked her for her care and kindness. None of that mattered to the people at table 12. To them, she was less than, and they wanted her to know it. Tommy finished the drinks and arranged them on a tray. "You sure you don't want me to say something to them?" Maya shook her head. "It'll just make it worse. I need this shift, Tommy. I've got tuition due." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "You're one of the best we've got here, Maya. Don't let anyone make you forget that." She picked up the tray and headed back to table 12. As she approached, she could see them leaning in, talking in hushed voices. But when she got close enough to set down the drinks, their conversation stopped. The silver-haired man watched her with a smirk on his face, like he was waiting for her to make a mistake. Maya placed each drink carefully in front of the right person. "Here you are. 1 Scotch neat, 1 dirty martini with 3 olives, and 2 glasses of the Pinot Noir. Are you folks ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes with the menu?" The blonde woman picked up her martini and examined it like she was inspecting evidence. She took a sip, made a face, and set it down. "This isn't what I ordered." Maya's heart sank. She'd heard the order perfectly. She'd repeated it back. Tommy had made it exactly right. "I'm sorry, ma'am. What seems to be the problem?" "It's too strong, and there are 3 olives." "I said 2. Maya had her notepad in her apron. She'd written down 3 olives. But arguing wouldn't help. "I apologize for that. I'll have it remade right away." As she reached for the glass, the silver-haired man shifted in his seat. His elbow knocked against his water glass, sending it tipping toward Maya. She jumped back just in time, but water splashed across the table and dripped onto the floor. The table erupted in laughter. All 4 of them this time, even the quiet couple. Like watching her jump back from the water was the funniest thing they'd seen all year. Maya grabbed napkins from her apron and started dabbing at the spill. "I'll get this cleaned up and bring fresh water right away." "Better watch where you're going," the silver-haired man said with a grin. "Can't have you spilling things all over paying customers." She'd barely touched the table. She hadn't knocked anything over, but Maya bit her tongue and kept cleaning. This was going to be a long night. Maya returned from the bar with a fresh martini and clean water glasses. Her hands were steady now, even though her heart was racing. She'd dealt with rude customers before, but something about this table felt different. Worse. More deliberate. She set the new martini down in front of the blonde woman, who didn't even look at her. "Thank you," Maya said anyway, as if the woman had acknowledged her. Kindness in the face of cruelty. That's what her mother had always taught her. The table finally ordered their food. Expensive dishes, of course. The silver-haired man ordered the most premium steak on the menu, cooked medium rare. His wife wanted the lobster tail with extra butter. The other couple ordered pasta dishes and another bottle of wine. Maya wrote everything down carefully, repeated the order back to confirm, and headed to the kitchen. In the back, the kitchen staff was in full swing. Pans sizzled, knives chopped, and orders were called out in the organized chaos that happens every dinner service. The head chef, a guy named Carlos who'd been at Riverside for 15 years, looked up when Maya came in. "How's the floor tonight?" he asked. "Busy," Maya said, clipping the order to the line. She didn't mention table 12. What was the point? The food would be perfect like it always was. Carlos ran a tight kitchen. As she waited for other tables' orders, Jessica came up beside her. They'd started at the restaurant around the same time and had been through a lot together. Late nights, difficult customers, holiday rushes. Jessica could read Maya better than most people. "That table giving you trouble?" Jessica asked quietly. Maya glanced back toward the dining room. Through the small window in the kitchen door, She could see table 12. They were laughing, drinking, having what looked like a great time. Nothing I can't handle. You don't have to handle everything alone, you know. I can talk to them if you want. Maya shook her head. I'm not giving them what they want. They want me to fail, to quit, to run away. I'm not doing it. Jessica squeezed her arm. You're tougher than me. But I'm here if you need backup. The next 30 minutes were a test of Maya's patience. She brought bread to table 12. The silver-haired man complained it wasn't warm enough. She brought warm bread. He said it was too warm now and the butter had melted. She brought new bread and cold butter. He just grunted and turned away. She refilled their water glasses. The blonde woman snapped her fingers at her. Actually snapped her fingers like Maya was a dog. More wine, she said without looking up from her conversation. Maya's jaw clenched, but she smiled. Of course. I'll bring that right out. When she came back with the wine, the woman held up her hand without pausing her conversation. Maya stood there, bottle in hand, waiting. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Finally, the woman glanced at her with irritation as if Maya had interrupted something important. Well, are you going to pour it or just stand there? Maya poured the wine, her movement smooth and professional despite wanting to scream. As she finished, the silver-haired man leaned back in his chair and stretched, deliberately bumping into her. The wine bottle tilted and a few drops spilled on the tablecloth. Watch what you're doing, he barked, loud enough that nearby tables turned to look. I apologize, sir. Let me clean that up. You should be more careful. This is an expensive restaurant. We expect better service than this. Maya cleaned the small spill while the blonde woman made a show of moving her purse away, as if Maya might somehow contaminate it. The other couple at the table looked uncomfortable but still said nothing. They just kept their eyes down, pretending nothing was wrong. Finally, the food was ready. Carlos had outdone himself as usual. The plates looked like artwork. Maya loaded everything onto a large tray and carefully carried it to table 12. This was always the moment of truth in fine dining. Getting the food to the table hot, beautiful, and perfect. She set each plate down with care, announcing each dish as she went. The ribeye, medium rare, the lobster tail with drawn butter, the seafood linguine, and the wild mushroom ravioli. Is there anything else I can bring you right now? The silver-haired man cut into his steak immediately. He didn't wait for everyone to be served. He just cut a piece, put it in his mouth, and started chewing. His face twisted into an exaggerated expression of disgust. This is overcooked, he announced, loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. Maya leaned in slightly to look at the steak. It was perfectly medium rare, pink in the center just like he'd ordered. She could see it from where she stood. Sir, that appears to be cooked to medium rare as requested. But if you'd prefer it cooked differently, I'd be happy to have the chef prepare a new one. I know what medium rare looks like, and this isn't it. He pushed the plate toward her. Take it back. The blonde woman had now taken a bite of her lobster. This is cold, she said, even though steam was still rising from the plate. And this pasta is bland, the other woman chimed in, speaking up for the first time all night. No flavor at all. Maya felt like she'd entered some kind of alternate reality. The food was perfect. She knew it was perfect. Carlos was one of the best chefs in Atlanta. But arguing with customers was never a good idea, even when they were clearly wrong. I'm so sorry you're not satisfied. Let me take these back to the kitchen and have everything remade. She gathered the plates, which were all barely touched, and headed back to the kitchen. Carlos took one look at the returned food and his face darkened. What's wrong with it? They say the steak is overcooked, the lobster is cold, and the pasta has no flavor. Carlos picked up the steak and examined it. This is perfect medium rare, and it just came off the heat 2 minutes ago. He touched the lobster tail. Still hot. He tasted the pasta sauce. This is the same recipe I've been making for 10 years. What's really going on out there? Maya's eyes stung with tears she refused to let fall. They just don't like me, Carlos. It has nothing to do with the food. The other kitchen staff had stopped working to listen. They all knew Maya. They all respected her. One of the line cooks, a young guy named Derek, spoke up. That's messed up. You want me to go out there? No, Maya said firmly. Just remake the food. Please, I need to get through this shift. Carlos shook his head but started preparing new plates. This is wrong, Maya. You shouldn't have to put up with this. I know, but I need the money. And I'm not letting them win. While the food was being prepared again, Maya continued serving her other tables. A family with 2 young kids who were celebrating a birthday, an elderly couple on a date night, a group of businesswomen having a work dinner. All of them were kind, appreciative, normal customers. They reminded her why she usually loved this job, but between each interaction she had to return to table 12. More wine, more water, more bread. Each time there was some new complaint, some new way to make her feel small. The silver-haired man asked her to explain menu items he'd already ordered, then talked over her when she tried to answer. The blonde woman sent back her martini again, claiming it tasted different even though it was made exactly the same way. The worst part wasn't even the complaints. It was the way they looked at her. Or rather, the way they didn't look at her. Like she wasn't fully human. Like she was just some inconvenience they had to tolerate. When Maya brought out the remade food, she prayed this would be the end of it. The plates were even more beautiful than the first time. Carlos had put extra care into them, as if he could somehow make up for the customer's cruelty with perfect food. She set everything down again, checking each plate carefully. "Please let me know if there's anything else you need." The silver-haired man didn't even taste his new steak before pushing it away. "This is worse than the first one. What kind of place is this?" The blonde woman picked at her lobster with her fork, making a face. Still not right. Maya's hands gripped her notepad so tightly her knuckles turned white. "I can have the chef prepare something else entirely if you'd prefer. We have other options on the menu." "Maybe the problem isn't the food," the silver-haired man said with a cruel smile. "Maybe the problem is the server. Maybe you're just not cut out for this kind of work." Around them, the restaurant had gotten quieter. Other diners were watching now, not even pretending to ignore what was happening. Maya could feel their eyes on her. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to get involved. Maya took a deep breath. "I'll get the manager for you." "Finally," the blonde woman said. "Someone competent." Maya walked toward the back of the restaurant, her legs feeling heavier with each step. She'd never asked for a manager before. Not once in 3 years. She'd handled angry customers, kitchen mistakes, billing issues, everything. But this was different. This wasn't about the food or the service. This was about something she couldn't fix by being better at her job. Jessica met her halfway, concern written all over her face. "What happened?" "They want the manager," Maya said quietly. "Can you get Mr. Peterson?" "He's not here tonight. He had that family thing, remember?" Jessica touched Maya's arm. "But don't worry. I'll get someone." Maya nodded and returned to her section, though she stayed away from table 12. She checked on her other tables, refilled drinks, cleared plates. Trying to stay busy, trying not to think about what was coming next. Her other customers were wonderful, thankfully. The family with the birthday girl gave her a warm smile. The elderly couple thanked her for her excellent service. These small moments of kindness felt like life rafts in a stormy sea. But she couldn't avoid table 12 forever. As she passed by with a tray of dirty dishes, the silver-haired man called out to her, "Hey, where's that manager?" "We've been waiting." "Someone will be right with you, sir," Maya said, not stopping. "Don't you walk away from me when I'm talking to you," he said, his voice rising. The entire restaurant could hear him now. Conversations at nearby tables stopped mid-sentence. "This is exactly the attitude we've been dealing with all night." Maya stopped and turned around. She wanted to say so many things. She wanted to tell him exactly what she thought of his attitude. But she'd worked too hard to get where she was. She needed this job. She needed to graduate. So she took a breath and said, "I apologize for any inconvenience. The manager will be here shortly." The blonde woman dabbed at her mouth with her napkin and spoke in a voice dripping with false sweetness. "We're not trying to be difficult, dear. We just expect a certain level of service when we dine out. Surely you can understand that." There was nothing sweet about the way she said dear. It was condescending, meant to put Maya in her place. Maya understood perfectly what was happening. They were putting on a show now, playing the part of reasonable customers dealing with an incompetent server, making sure everyone watching would think they were justified in their complaints. "I completely understand, ma'am," Maya said, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. "We always want our guests to have the best experience possible." She walked away before they could say anything else. In the server station, out of sight from the dining room, she leaned against the counter and closed her eyes. Just for a moment. Just to collect herself, Tommy, the bartender, appeared beside her with a glass of water. "Drink this." She took it gratefully and downed half the glass. "Thanks. Those people are garbage," Tommy said bluntly. "Everyone can see it. Doesn't matter what everyone can see. They're customers. I'm staff. You know how this goes." "Yeah, but it shouldn't go like that. Not when they're treating you like—" "Don't," Maya interrupted. "Don't say it. If we say it out loud, it becomes this whole thing. I just want to get through the shift." Tommy looked like he wanted to argue, but he just nodded. They'd worked together long enough that he knew when to push and when to let it go. Jessica came rushing back, slightly out of breath. "Okay, so I've got someone coming. It's actually better than Peterson." "Who?" "You'll see. Just trust me." Jessica squeezed her hand. "This is going to work out." Maya wasn't so sure, but she appreciated her friend's optimism. She took another drink of water, straightened her apron, and headed back to the dining room. As she approached table 12, she saw that they'd made even more of a mess. Wine had been spilled on the tablecloth. Deliberately, it looked like. Silverware was scattered. One of the women had knocked over the salt shaker. The silver-haired man saw her coming and held up his hand like a traffic cop. "Don't even bother. We're waiting for management, someone who can actually handle this situation properly." "Of course, sir. Is there anything I can get for you while you wait?" The blonde woman laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the air. "What could you possibly get us that you haven't already messed up?" Maya didn't answer. She just stood there, maintaining her composure while they stared at her with undisguised contempt. The other couple at the table looked more uncomfortable than ever. The second woman kept glancing around the restaurant as if just now realizing how many people were watching. "You know what the problem is?" the silver-haired man said, leaning back in his chair. "People today think they deserve jobs they're not qualified for. They think they can just show up and expect everything to be handed to them." He wasn't talking about Maya specifically anymore, or maybe he was. It was hard to tell where his general complaints ended and his personal attacks began. But everyone listening knew what he meant. Maya knew what he meant. "Standards have gone down everywhere," the blonde woman added, gesturing around the restaurant. "You used to be able to count on a certain quality of service at places like this. But now," she shook her head sadly, as if the decline of Western civilization was happening right there at table 12. Maya felt something crack inside her. Not break, but crack, like a dam holding back too much water. A single tear rolled down her cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly, but not quickly enough. They'd seen it. The blonde woman's eyes lit up with something like triumph. "Oh, now don't cry, honey. We're not trying to hurt your feelings. We're just being honest about the service." That was somehow worse than the outright insults. The fake concern, the pretending they were doing her a favor by tearing her down. Maya opened her mouth to respond, though she wasn't sure what she was going to say. Then she heard footsteps behind her, heavy, measured footsteps that commanded attention. The restaurant, which had been buzzing with whispered conversations about the scene at table 12, fell completely silent. Even the kitchen noise seemed to quiet down. Maya turned to see who was coming. She recognized him immediately, though she'd only seen him a handful of times. He didn't work regular shifts at the restaurant. He was upper management, the kind of person who showed up for special events and important meetings. Tall, well-dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. He carried himself with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who he was and what he was worth. His name was Vincent Crawford, and he was the general manager. More than that, he was part owner of the restaurant. His family had founded Riverside Bistro 20 years ago, and he'd grown up in the business. He was also, Maya realized as he got closer, a black man. The expression on the silver-haired man's face was priceless. His smugness evaporated in an instant, replaced by confusion and then a flicker of something that might have been fear. The blonde woman's mouth actually fell open slightly. They'd been expecting someone different, someone who would take their side automatically. Someone who looked like them. Vincent stopped beside Maya and gave her a kind, reassuring look. Then he turned to table 12 with a professional smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Good evening. I'm Vincent Crawford, the general manager here at Riverside Bistro. I understand there's been some concern about your dining experience tonight." His voice was calm, polite even, but there was something underneath it, an edge of steel that suggested he already knew exactly what had been happening. The silver-haired man cleared his throat and sat up straighter, trying to regain his authority. Yes, well, we've had a very disappointing evening. The service has been absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable, Vincent repeated as if tasting the word. That's a strong term. Why don't you tell me specifically what happened? The blonde woman jumped in. The food has been wrong multiple times. We've had to send back nearly everything we ordered, and your server here has been rude and inattentive. Maya felt like she'd been slapped. Rude, inattentive. She'd done nothing but try to please them all night despite their constant abuse. Vincent's expression didn't change. I see. And when you say the food was wrong, what exactly was the issue? The steak was overcooked. The lobster was cold. The pasta had no flavor. The silver-haired man listed off. We're not difficult people, but we know quality when we see it. And this wasn't it? Interesting, Vincent said. He pulled out his phone and tapped on it a few times. Because our kitchen keeps temperature logs for quality control. Every dish that goes out is checked. And I can see here that your steak was logged at exactly 135 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect medium rare. The lobster left the kitchen at 165 degrees, well above the safe temperature, and certainly not cold. The table went quiet. Vincent continued, his voice still calm but getting colder. As for the pasta, our head chef has been making that dish for 15 years. It's one of our most popular items. We rarely get complaints about it. Well, we're complaining now, the blonde woman said, though her voice had lost some of its confidence. Vincent nodded slowly, as if considering their complaint carefully. Then he did something unexpected. He turned to the tables nearest to them. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry to interrupt your dinner, but I need to ask you something. Did any of you witness what happened at this table tonight? The elderly couple Maya had served earlier looked at each other. Then the man spoke up. His voice was clear and firm despite his age. We saw the whole thing. That young lady did nothing wrong. She was nothing but professional, even when these people were treating her terribly. A woman from the business women's table raised her hand slightly. I saw it too. They were rude to her from the moment she walked up. Snapping fingers, talking down to her. It was hard to watch. The silver-haired man's face turned red. Now hold on a minute. But Vincent held up his hand, silencing him. He pulled out his phone again and made a call. Carlos, can you come to the dining room for a moment? Yes, now please. He ended the call and looked back at table 12. Our head chef is coming out. I'd like him to hear your complaints directly. The blonde woman shifted in her seat. That's not necessary. We just want this situation resolved. Oh, I'm going to resolve it, Vincent said. His tone was still professional, but there was no mistaking the authority in it. But I believe in being thorough. Carlos emerged from the kitchen, still wearing his chef's whites and apron. He looked at Vincent, then at table 12, then at Maya. His jaw was tight. What's going on? These guests claim that the food you prepared tonight was substandard, Vincent said. Multiple dishes all sent back. They say the steak was overcooked, the lobster was cold, and the pasta was flavorless. Carlos's eyes narrowed. That's not possible. I cooked that steak myself. It was perfect. And I watched Maya carry those plates out. The food was hot and exactly as ordered. The silver-haired man leaned forward. Are you calling us liars? I'm saying that my food was prepared correctly, Carlos replied evenly. I've been a chef for 23 years. I know when something leaves my kitchen right. Vincent turned back to the table. Here's what I find interesting. In the 3 years Maya has worked here, she's never had a complaint like this. Not once. She's actually been nominated for Employee of the Month 6 times and won it twice. Our customers regularly ask for her by name. He paused, letting that sink in. So either she suddenly became terrible at her job tonight or something else is going on. The restaurant was dead silent now. Every eye was on table 12. The second couple, the ones who had been quiet all night, looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. The woman was staring at her lap, her face pale. We don't have to explain ourselves to you, the blonde woman said. But her voice wavered. We're paying customers. We have a right to complain if we're not satisfied. You absolutely do, Vincent agreed. But here's the thing about rights. They come with responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is treating our staff with basic human decency. He pulled out his phone once more and tapped the screen. Now, I wasn't going to do this, but you've left me no choice. We have security cameras throughout the restaurant. They're mainly for safety, but they also help us resolve disputes. He turned the phone around so they could see the screen. This is from tonight. Maya couldn't see what was on the screen, but she could see the reactions. The silver-haired man's face went from red to almost purple. The blonde woman's eyes widened. The other couple looked sick. "Let me describe what I'm seeing here," Vincent said, his voice taking on a harder edge. "I see a water glass being deliberately knocked toward my employee. I see exaggerated gestures meant to demean her. I see wine being spilled intentionally and then blamed on her." He swiped to another clip. "And this one is particularly interesting. This shows you." He pointed at the silver-haired man, "making gestures that I won't describe out loud because this is a family establishment. But everyone here knows what I'm talking about." The elderly man who'd spoken up earlier shook his head in disgust. "Shameful," he muttered, loud enough to be heard. The silver-haired man tried to recover. "Now listen here, I don't know what you think you saw." "I saw exactly what happened," Vincent interrupted. "And more importantly, so did about 30 other people in this restaurant." He gestured around the room. "You wanted to make a scene? Congratulations. You got everyone's attention, but not in the way you hoped." The blonde woman's voice turned shrill. "This is ridiculous. We're being attacked for simply trying to have a nice dinner. If you people would just—" She stopped mid-sentence, realizing what she'd said. "You people?" Those two words hung in the air like smoke. Vincent's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "You people," he repeated quietly. "There it is." Maya felt tears threatening again, but this time they were different. Not tears of humiliation, but of relief. Someone was finally saying out loud what everyone had been thinking all night. "I want to be very clear about something," Vincent said, his voice carrying through the silent restaurant. "Maya is one of the finest servers I've ever had the privilege of working with. She's putting herself through nursing school. She maintains a 4.0 grade point average. On her days off, she volunteers at Children's Hospital, reading to kids who are stuck in bed." He looked directly at the silver-haired man. "What do you do with your free time?" No answer came. Vincent continued. "She's shown more grace and professionalism tonight than most people show in a lifetime. She served you with respect even when you gave her none. She kept her composure when you tried to break her down. And she did it all with a smile because that's who she is." Maya's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected anyone to stand up for her like this, to see her as a whole person rather than just a server. "Now here's what's going to happen," Vincent said, his tone shifting to pure business. "You're going to pay your bill in full, not a penny less, and then you're going to leave my restaurant. You're not welcome back. Not tonight, not ever." The silver-haired man stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You can't do that. We haven't even finished our meal." "You sent back every dish we served you," Vincent pointed out. "You clearly weren't planning on eating anything anyway. And yes, I absolutely can do this. This is my restaurant. I decide who gets to dine here." "This is discrimination," the blonde woman said, grasping at straws. Vincent almost smiled. Almost. "No, ma'am. Discrimination is what you did to Maya tonight. What I'm doing is called consequences. There's a difference." The other man at the table, the quiet one with glasses, finally spoke up. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Let's just go, Richard. This has gone too far." Richard, the silver-haired man, glared at him. "Whose side are you on?" "I'm on the side of not being publicly humiliated," the man replied, standing up. "Pay the bill. Let's leave." Richard looked around the restaurant, perhaps hoping for support. He found none. Every face looking back at him showed either disgust or disappointment. Even the staff had emerged from the kitchen to watch, standing in solidarity with Maya. He threw his napkin on the table. "Fine. Give me the bill." Vincent signaled to Jessica, who quickly printed out the check and brought it over. The total was substantial. 3 bottles of expensive wine, premium entrees, appetizers. Richard looked at the number and his jaw clenched. But he pulled out his credit card. While they were processing the payment, the elderly gentleman who'd spoken up earlier stood and walked over to Maya. He pressed something into her hand. "You handled that with remarkable dignity, young lady. Don't let anyone dim your light." Maya looked down. It was $200 bills. "Sir, I can't—" "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "My wife and I have been coming here for 15 years. We've never seen anyone treat another human being the way they treated you tonight, and we've never seen anyone handle it with such grace." He patted her shoulder gently and returned to his table. One by one, other diners approached. Some left cash, others just offered words of encouragement. The woman from the business table gave her a business card. If you need a reference for anything at all, you call me. What you showed tonight, that's the kind of person any hospital would be lucky to have. The second couple from table 12 tried to slip out quietly while Richard was still settling the bill. But Vincent stopped them. Just so we're clear, you're all banned. Not just him. You sat there and watched it happen. You laughed along. That makes you just as responsible. The woman looked like she might cry. We didn't mean— Yes, you did, Vincent said simply. You just didn't think anyone would call you out on it. Richard finished paying and stood up, his face still red with anger and embarrassment. As he walked toward the door, he couldn't resist one last jab. You'll regret this. We have friends. Important friends. This restaurant's reputation will be exactly what it should be, Vincent interrupted. A place where everyone is treated with respect regardless of who they are. If that hurts our reputation with people like you, I'll sleep just fine at night. The door closed behind the four of them, and for a moment, the restaurant remained silent. Then slowly at first someone started clapping, the elderly gentleman who'd given Maya the tip. His wife joined in. Then the business table, the family with the birthday girl. Within seconds, the entire restaurant was applauding. Maya stood there overwhelmed, not quite believing what was happening. The sound washed over her like a wave, and this time she didn't try to stop the tears. She covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. Jessica rushed over and pulled her into a tight hug. You did it. You made it through. I didn't do anything, Maya said through her tears. I just stood there. That's not nothing, Vincent said, approaching them. Standing your ground when someone's trying to knock you down, that takes real strength. He handed her a clean handkerchief from his pocket. Take a minute. The dining room can wait, but Maya shook her head, wiping her eyes. No, I have other tables. They've been waiting. They'll understand if you need a break, Vincent said gently. I know, but I want to finish my shift. Maya looked around at the faces watching her with warmth and support. These people deserve good service. And I'm good at my job. Vincent smiled, a real smile this time. Yes, you are. Okay, but come see me before you leave tonight. We need to talk. Those words would normally have filled Maya with anxiety, but somehow tonight they didn't. She nodded and got back to work. The rest of the shift was unlike anything Maya had experienced. Every table she approached seemed to know what had happened. They were patient, kind, generous. The family with the birthday girl insisted she join them for a piece of cake. The businesswomen told her stories about their own experiences with discrimination in the workplace, how they'd learned to stand tall despite it all. Tips that night were 3 times what Maya usually made. But more than the money, it was the way people looked at her. Not with pity, but with respect. With admiration even. One woman stopped her on the way to the kitchen and simply said, "Thank you for showing my daughter what dignity looks like." When the dinner rush finally ended and the last customers left, Maya began her closing duties. Cleaning tables, refilling salt and pepper shakers, restocking napkins. The familiar routine was comforting after such a chaotic night. Carlos came out of the kitchen and gave her a bear hug that lifted her off her feet. You're a warrior, he said. Don't ever forget that. Tommy, the bartender, had made her a virgin version of their signature cocktail. On the house, he said. You earned it. As Maya sipped her drink and finished her closing tasks, Jessica sat down beside her at the server station. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you walk out? When it got really bad, why didn't you just leave? Maya thought about it for a moment. Because that's what they wanted. They wanted me to feel like I didn't belong here. Like I wasn't good enough. If I'd left, that would have been them winning. She looked at her friend. My mom used to clean houses for rich families. Sometimes they treated her the same way those people treated me tonight. But she never quit. She'd come home exhausted, sometimes crying, but she never quit. She said people like that want you to disappear, to make yourself small. The most powerful thing you can do is refuse to disappear. Jessica's eyes glistened. Your mom sounds amazing. She was. Maya smiled at the memory. She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. She never got to see me get into nursing school. But I know she'd be proud. She'd be proud of how you handled tonight. That's for sure. Vincent appeared in the doorway of his office. Maya, do you have a few minutes? Maya's stomach fluttered nervously, but she stood up and followed him. His office was neat and organized, with framed photos of the restaurant through the years on the walls. He gestured for her to sit in one of the chairs across from his desk. "First," he said, settling into his own chair, "I want to apologize." Maya blinked in surprise. "For what?" "For not being here sooner. For letting it go on as long as it did. I was upstairs in a meeting and Jessica had to come get me. You shouldn't have had to endure that for as long as you did." "That wasn't your fault," Maya said quickly. "You came as soon as you knew. Still, no one should be treated that way in my restaurant. Or anywhere." He leaned forward, his expression serious. "I want you to know that what happened tonight was unacceptable, and I've already made sure word gets out to other restaurants in the area. Those people won't be able to pull that stunt anywhere else around here." Maya nodded, not quite sure what to say. Vincent continued, "But I also want to talk about something else. I've been watching you since you started here 3 years ago. You're exceptional at what you do, the way you handle customers, your attention to detail, your work ethic, all of it, and I know you're in nursing school." "Yes, sir. I graduate in May." "That's wonderful. The healthcare field is lucky to have you." He paused. "But I also know that nursing school is expensive, and working full-time while studying must be exhausting." Maya didn't deny it. "I make it work, I'm sure you do. But what if you didn't have to work quite so hard?" Vincent opened a folder on his desk. "We have a scholarship program here at Riverside. It's for employees pursuing higher education. We haven't advertised it much because we wanted to make sure it went to the right people, people who demonstrate not just academic excellence but character." Maya's heart started beating faster. "I don't understand." "I'd like to nominate you for a full scholarship for your final semester. It would cover your tuition, books, and fees. You'd still work here, but we'd reduce your hours so you can focus on your studies. And when you graduate, if you want to continue working here part-time, there'll always be a place for you." Maya's hands flew to her mouth. "Are you serious?" "Completely. You've more than earned it." Vincent slid a paper across the desk. "This is the application. It's mostly a formality. The decision is mine, and I've already made it." The tears Maya had been holding back all evening finally broke through completely. She sobbed, not from sadness or humiliation this time, but from relief and gratitude, and the sudden release of tension she'd been carrying for so long. "Thank you," she managed to say between sobs. "Thank you so much." Vincent handed her a box of tissues and waited patiently while she composed herself. "You don't have to thank me. You earned this through your own hard work and dedication. Tonight just confirmed what I already knew about you." When Maya finally left Vincent's office, she found the entire staff waiting for her. They'd pooled their tips from the evening, and Jessica presented her with an envelope. "We all wanted to do something," she explained. "After what you went through." Maya opened the envelope and gasped. There had to be at least $500 inside. "I can't take this. This is your money. It's yours now," Carlos said. "You stood up there and took it all with grace. That means something to us. We're a family here, and family takes care of each other." More tears. Maya was going to run out at this rate, but these were good tears, healing tears. As she drove home that night, Maya's phone buzzed with notifications. Apparently, someone at the restaurant had posted about what happened on social media. The post was already going viral with thousands of shares and comments. People were praising her strength and Vincent's leadership. The elderly couple had even been interviewed by a local news station. But what struck Maya most was a message from a number she didn't recognize. It was from the woman at the business table who'd given her a card. "I'm a nursing director at Presbyterian Hospital. When you graduate, please call me. We need people like you." Maya pulled into her apartment complex and sat in her car for a moment, just breathing. The night had started as one of the worst of her life, but it had ended as something else entirely. A turning point. A reminder that even in the darkest moments there were people who would stand up for what was right. She thought about her mother, wished she could call her and tell her about everything that happened, but in a way maybe she already knew. Maybe she'd been there the whole time, in the strength Maya found to keep going, in the dignity she'd refused to surrender. Tomorrow Maya would go to her classes. She'd study for her exams. She'd fill out the scholarship application. She'd continue working toward her dream of becoming a nurse, of helping people who needed care and compassion. But tonight, she'd survived something that could have broken her. And she'd come out stronger. As Maya walked up to her apartment, she looked up at the stars and smiled. Her mother used to say that the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. Tonight, Maya finally understood what she meant. The next day at school, Maya's professor pulled her aside. The story had reached the nursing department. "I just wanted you to know," her professor said, "that what you displayed last night, that grace under pressure, that's what nursing is all about. You're going to be an incredible nurse," and Maya believed her, because now finally she believed in herself too. Not because of what Vincent did or what the other customers said, or even because of the scholarship, but because she'd faced the worst and refused to let it define her. She was Maya Thompson. She was going to be a nurse, and no one could take that away from her.